Hi, Lisa Gifford here, and today I'm going to show you the Burke's Beauty template set. When you open up your package, there are 5 templates that comes with it, and they're all numbered. And if you're cutting this out where you've got your fabric folded, you're going to have a mirror image. So this is showing you that mirror image. You've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is how the placement of the templates are going to be. What's confusing is I've already made one of them. So it's this one right here, and it was in the mirror image. So imagine it like this, but flipped out. So if you're going to have your fabric folded where it's the wrong sides together or as it came off the bolt and you're cutting your pieces, you're going to have a set that you're going to put all the right sides face ups in one pile, and you're going to have the face downs on a separate pile because they're going to be a mirror image. Now the number 1 is the same, but 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 is also, the same in whichever direction. So you just got to remember there's a mirror image with this if you're cutting it in the sets of fabric. So this is just showing you when you go to sew it and you got all your pieces cut out. So like here, I'm going to pull out my number 1, and that would be this one right here. And then my number 2 is this one right here. And then I'll get my number 3, which is this one right here. And then we have our number 4 here. And then our number 5. And these are just cut just like all the other Martelli templates. You just set them on your fabric and you just do your cut. So do you see where the mirror image is? This is where it would have been stacked up, and so then you cut them out. So here's my 1 block, and we're going to go and sew up this block. So you do it in the number order of what it is. So you got your number 1, and you're going to place your number 2, or excuse me, your number 2 is going to be what's sewed next. So this is number 2. So you're going to line up over here, and I line up this edge right here onto this piece here, line it up here. You're going to sew 1/4 of an inch here, and then you'll do your number 3, which will give you this piece. You'll have this look right here. Then you'll sew on number 4, and then you'll sew on number 5. This block, unfinished, is 8.5 by 5 1/4. So the finished is 8 inches by 4 3/4. All right, so I'm going to show quickly just a quick demo on cutting. So I'm just going to grab a piece of fabric here, and I'm just going to show you how I typically cut. So if I'm going to be cutting my fabric, I've just got my template laid on here, just like with any other Martelli templates. They all have that get a grip on the back, so it's holding everything in place, and I have lots of layers underneath here, and then you're just going to do your cutting. Now you're going to be having some bias cuts, so you're going to be very careful. Just don't do no stretching of the fabric when you're sewing. There's probably lots of bias in this. So then this would be, again, here's your 1. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to grab one that's got a mirror image, just like we had just talked about. So if I was to say do number 4, which that's this one right here, and I go to cut this out, it's going to have that mirror image on it. So you'll have to remember when you go to separate your pieces, you're going to have your ones that were from the right, the top, and one that's going to be from the bottom. So I would have my stacks laid out like this, and I would just keep them separated like that, top and then your mirror image. So that's going to be just a special, just a hint to remember to keep your pieces separated, because you don't want to have to be fiddling with it and trying to find it. Just here's your one, here's your opposite of the main one. All right, so we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to go sew one of these blocks up. So I got my pieces all laid out, and this is one of those instances where having the Martelli chip markers would really come into play, because you'd be able to have them marked for what pieces that they are. Like this is the 1s, here's the 2s, here's the 3s, because it's best to sew this all together in that order. So I've got my number 1 here, and I'm grabbing my number 2, and I'm going to place it right sides together. Now this kind of has a hidden spot, so you know you're coming right here at this edge, you're lining up this edge, but I also want to be sure that I come off right here on this point right here. So I think it'd be better if I just go ahead and line it up and then flip it over, because I want to start here and then end here, right here, 1/4 inch at this point right here. But this one is a little bit more hidden for me, so I found it easier to flip it. And you're going to sew at 1/4 inch, and you want to have a pretty tight stitch on this one. So I've got it at 1/4, and I'm bringing it down just a little bit because there's a lot of handling with this on this one because there's so many pieces. And I'm starting right there at that point and sewing all the way down. And I want to be sure to come off right here at this point right here. Right, so then you're going to take your piece, and I just kind of gently push it back and just finger press it. And so you want it to have that look right here. And you want it to be pretty even going across here. So I'm just going to do a finger pressing. If you have your little iron, don't push it, just pat it. Maybe pay attention to the grain of your fabric, so that would be the direction that you would have your iron. You don't want to be distorting this piece as you go to do your next piece. So here's your 1 and 2, as you can see. So now we're going to grab 3. Here's 3. And it's going to go right here. So we're going to take it and put it right sides together. And we're going to sew, I'm going to show it on this side. You're going to match up your point right here. So you're going to be coming to this piece right here, sewing all the way down, 1/4 inch, and you're going to be coming off right here at this point right here. So get them nice and lined up. Looking to make sure I came off at that point there and right there. And again, I'm just gently rolling it back, and I'm just giving it a finger press. And what I'm looking for is that I've got about 1/4 inch right here, so I'm not going to lose my point. You see there's a little point right here? So we want to be sure that that's going to be, when we sew the next piece on, our number 4, it's going to go here, and you're not going to lose your point if you made sure that you came in the right way without making it too wide. So I'm just giving it a little bit of a finger press, and again, if you have your little area where you can just give it a tap. So I went ahead and pulled the other 2 pieces up. So here's my 1, 2, and 3. So here's my 4, and then our 5. So we'll be doing 5 after we get the 4 on here. So I'm going to take it, and we're going to put it right sides together. Make sure I got a good finger press here, or you can tap it with your iron. You want it to be nice and flat because you're going to sew right here at that point. So I got my piece, and I'm laying it down. And I'm just matching up the edges here. So you're going to be sewing all the way down to here. Now, if you wanted, you could flip it over. And I'm going to show you why. Because you could go ahead and have this piece flipped over, because you're going to start here and you're going to sew along here, and if you catch it right here where the stitches are crossing over, do you see where the stitches cross over is you'll see that little X over here on this other side. So you're going to want to sew like one stitch over from that little X. If you go over where the thread X is over, then you're going to be catching your point, and you don't want to catch your point. So you want to just come through. So you could line it up, but I find it's easier for me to not sew my, not to lose my point, just to flip it over, start sewing here and sewing all the way down where it lines up here on the bottom. That's just another little hint so you don't lose your point. I'm looking at where that point is at, and I don't want to lose it, and I would slide it over a little bit if you feel that you need it to, so you don't lose your point. Bottoms and somewhere down. Let's see how that turned out. So then flip it back over. Now you're just going to take your fingers and just roll it back. And I'm right there on the money. Give it a little bit of a press. You can see it's right there at that point. So the last piece, and you could trim off this little dog ear right here. Then we're going to take the last one and we're just going to add it right here. You're going to match up this edge here, and then you're going to match up this edge here, and then just sew all the way across. I'm just going to go ahead and trim that up just a little bit. Go ahead and take off that little bit of that dog ear right there. Place the two pieces right sides together. And I'm going to start sewing here. I'm going to go 1/4 inch all the way down and come off right here at this edge right here. You're dealing with lots of bias here, so just be very careful. Once you got it sewed, then you're just going to lightly roll it back and just give it a finger press. And there is your block. So we'll just take this over to the ironing board and get this sewed, ironed out nice and flat. All right, so here's the block I had finished earlier, and here's the one that you just saw me sew up. And again, here's the order placement of the template. So you've got your 1, your 2, your 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is basically showing you when you're cutting your two pieces of fabric out, you're going to have your right side, your wrong side. So be sure to separate those piles so that they'll all fit together nice and easily for you. Now, this is just one simple arrangement showing a focal fabric and a bunch of other fabrics with it. But here is where we've got the 5 different fabrics with so many different layouts out there. So here is your block right here. I'm going to grab one. I'm going to have you see it. So here's the block here, here, here. And they just did it as in a row like we have here. This one here is where they put it this way and this way. They kept the same colors, but they changed it up. This one here gives it a totally different look. This is your block here and here. It's just however one, and there is just a plethora of other of ways that you could lay this out. You could change out how you want your fabrics to be. You can have a totally different look to it. I know that it's on the website, if you could look for that there, but just have fun with this block. It's a lot of fun. It's a great and easy block to learn and to do. Again, it's Burke's Beauty, designed by our own Gail Burke. Be sure to check us out at martellinotions.com and pick it up today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at quiltingwithlisa@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.